Unstoppable tells the riveting story of Anthony Robles, an American wrestler who was born with one leg and went on to win the 2011 NCAA Individual Wrestling National Championship. I spoke exclusively with director and fellow Temple University alum William Goldenberg about working with the champion and other stars involved in the project, including Jharrel Jerome, Matt Damon, and then married couple Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. Take a look. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Unstoppable, it's this riveting movie. It tells the story of Anthony Robles, who is a wrestling champion, and he was born with one leg.
Right.
How did you first hear about this story?
I had sort of known about him peripherally when he, it was a big story. I mean, he did a bunch of talk shows, and I didn't really know much, but I sort of heard about it. But then about 7 years ago, a producer friend of mine, who's now a producer on the film, brought the project to me. He knew I was looking for something to direct, and I just thought the story was incredible. And I'm drawn to sports-oriented films anyway, and I thought it was incredible. And then I flew to Arizona and met Anthony, and once I met him, I knew I wanted to make the film because he's just an incredibly impressive human being who you can see has a profound effect on everybody he comes into contact with. And I just thought, this is an amazing story. He's an amazing person, and you don't meet people like that very often. So my instincts told me this is the one I should direct first.
Absolutely. And I feel like, he has one leg, but some would find that as a disability in a way. But in the way the movie portrays it, it's not really, he doesn't think of it as a disability. He does everything that the rest of his teammates could do, and then some. Like, he has to work 10 times harder.
Right. He refused to be singled out. His mother, from the day he was born, never treated him like anything other than just a normal person. Like, she constantly would tell him, "You're no different than anybody else. You can do anything." So it was his mom really who instilled that in him from the time he was a small child. And I think he's just born to be this positive, force. He walks into a room and everybody lights up. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. And now he works as a motivational speaker, and he's fantastic at it. His mom had a huge influence on him. And I think it was a great message for him, that you can do anything, and he seems to be able to do anything.
Wow. And then, I want to gear towards you a little bit because this is your directorial feature debut, is that correct?
Right.
And you had an editing background. So around the same time, we were talking about the 2011 NCAA Wrestling Championship, where Anthony won. You made, were in the midst of making Argo 2011, 2012.
Right.
And then, your predecessor, or I should say your supervisor, Michael Kahn.
Right.
So you worked with him. Now we're at the 2013 Academy Awards. You guys are he's up for Lincoln,
right.
You're up for Argo, and you're also up for Zero Dark 30. And so you win your first Oscar for Best Editing for Argo.
Right.
And then, he already had some Oscars, Michael Kahn.
A few, yeah.
Yeah. But how is that moment? I feel like it's a parallel between Anthony Robles and you go on to make, this great film about him around the same time that you're also winning and doing big things as well.
Michael he's like a surrogate father to me. I mean, he trained me to be an editor in every way. I mean, both creatively and also emotionally and, politically. And it was a great experience, actually. I've worked with Steven Spielberg several times and gotten to know him a little bit, and they were both incredibly generous. I mean, there was no sort of weirdness, jealousy. You do a lot of events together in the lead up to the Oscars once you're nominated, and so I got to spend a ton of time with Michael, and we had a great time doing it. We go to dinners together, and I don't get to see him very much, so that was really fun. And when I won, they both of them. When I won the ACE Award, which is the American Cinema Editors Awards, they were on my way to the stage. I walked by their table, and they both grabbed me and gave me a huge hug. And after I won the Oscar and, we did all the press backstage, I came out to go back into the theater, and the first person I saw was Steven, who gave me a huge hug and congratulated me. So it was incredible. They're both really generous and people, and I think they were proud of me. Because,
Wow.
I've known Michael for such a long time, and to have it come full circle like that, it was a really incredible experience.
It's amazing. And then I want to get into your directing styles, because going from, editing connoisseur and now director, I feel like watching Unstoppable, every scene, it kind of built in a different or a new emotion, if you will. How picking out the scenes, like highlighting when Rich, or Anthony Robles' stepfather, kind of tells him, you're not my son, I'm not your dad, I'm your stepdad. Picking out certain scenes like that of the story and telling it. What would you say is your style of directing?
Well, I'm heavily influenced by some of the directors I've worked for, Michael Mann, Catherine Bigelow, Paul Greengrass, Ben Affleck, especially because I've worked with him for such a long time. And I'm really drawn to this sort of very alive feeling camera, where it feels like it's sort of, grab reality in a way. So you kind of put the audience in the place of the character. So you're, so it's very much, experiencing it along with whoever the main character is, and in this case, obviously Anthony. And I just love that style. I love editing it. I love the way it makes you feel. It makes you feel like it makes you feel like it's real. And I just wanted that. I wanted Unstoppable to feel that way too. So I say, all those people really, all those directors influenced the style, and I think it was also a style that I hadn't seen in any or very many sports films, like sports-oriented films. So I thought it would sort of separate a little bit, and it just felt right for the project. And from, especially with the wrestling, where the cameramen are like laying or on the mat, running around, 3 cameras at one time, and they were running around chasing the action, and it was all choreographed, but it was so it all felt very immediate to me, and I'm just really attracted to that style.
Speaking of making it feel real, Anthony Robles and Jharrel Jerome, who plays him, I feel like he did such a great job of playing a wrestler. How big of a hand did Anthony have on that?
Oh, a huge hand. First of all, through visual effects, we were able to use Anthony and Jharrel. They both wrestled.
Wow.
Yeah, so we would shoot, the way we shot it was we would shoot takes with Jharrel, and then we would shoot takes with Anthony. And because from day one, I knew that the only way I could make this movie really authentic, especially the wrestling, was to have Anthony be involved heavily, especially with the wrestling. So I asked, the first thing I did was ask him if he would be willing to do that, and he was, overjoyed to do it because he loves to wrestle. So, and he, because he can move in a way that nobody with 2 legs can move. And Jharrel has 2 legs. And so we did a combination of using both of them, and through visual effects, we were able to make Jharrel, we would remove his leg digitally, and Anthony, we digitally put Jharrel's face on Anthony's body. And the visual effects people did an incredible job. It's seamless. And Jharrel trained for basically 5 years, off and on, but for like the bulk of it, yeah, because the movie stopped and started a lot for the pandemic, and then the writers and actors strike. We shot 11 days and then got shut down for 6 months. So he trained a lot, and he got to be a really good wrestler. And I think one of the highlights, one day, one of the wrestlers, we had all the wrestlers in the film are really high end, like Division I college wrestlers. And and it's choreographed, but they're wrestling full out. I mean, it's not like it's like boxing where you're, you can't really hit somebody like that. But they're, these guys are wrestling full out. So somebody asked Jharrel, one of the wrestlers asked Jharrel how long he had been wrestling, if he had wrestled in high school, and it made his day. One of the wrestlers thought that he was a real wrestler. So, but yeah, so Anthony, without Anthony's participation, I don't think it would have been the movie it is. I mean, and he was on set most days, and he, it's great to have him around. He's such a positive spirit, and everybody loved the story and loved the project, the whole crew. So it made it, everybody wanted to do right by Anthony and his family. So having him around all the time it made it more special, and I kind of think it brought everybody together.
Oh, that's lovely. And then speaking of the Robles, Judy Robles, played by Jennifer Lopez, how much of involvement was she? Because also Jennifer Lopez, she spoke out about, in one of her documentaries with Ben Affleck, just about her experiences with domestic violence, and there's a part of that in this movie, in the story as well. So I'm sure that they had a lot to kind of connect on, if you will. So how was their kind of...
They bonded. I mean, they're really bonded. I mean, as soon as Jennifer took the role, she immediately got on the phone with Judy, and then Judy and Anthony. But she and Judy spent a ton of time talking, and they just hit it off. I mean, they were like long lost friends. I mean, I think they had like you say, similar life experiences, and they saw a lot of each other a lot of themselves in each other, and they continue to be really close. I mean, when they hadn't seen each other in a couple of months, and the first screening was in Toronto at the Toronto Film Festival, they like threw their arms around each other like long lost friends, and in fact, to the point, there were stories that Judy told Jennifer that I hadn't heard that made its way into the script.
Really?
So yeah, that Jennifer said, this is what Judy told me, she's comfortable with putting this in, so we put those in, and then Jennifer even wore some of Judy's clothes in the film. Yeah, Judy saved everything, and a couple of the beanies and T-shirts and one of the jackets, and so that made it. I don't know. It just made it special to know that she was wearing Judy's clothes.
Absolutely, J-Lo was truly connected to the character.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really connected. I mean, and Judy's an incredible person. I mean, she's so smart and well spoken, and in touch with They obviously did a lot of work on themselves and on each other. Judy and Anthony are like bonded. I mean, Judy was 15 when she had Anthony. So, excuse me. So, I mean, they grew up together, and so that it was really from where they started and where they start in this film to where they've ended up. And if you see the film, you'll see how it works.
Right.
Where they ended up, it's incredible what they did for each other.
And the choice that Judy had to make, I am going to take care of my son, and then look at what happened. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, even from when he was born, my understanding is, we don't go into this in the film, but my understanding is that they wanted Judy's parents wanted to give up Anthony for adoption, and she was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm raising this boy.
Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, they're both producers on this film. Was there any talk about maybe having them star in it as well, or was
briefly?
Okay.
Yeah, briefly. I mean, I would have been honored if there was some talk about it, but then I didn't want it to be a distraction. I just wanted to. So it never really went too far, the discussions about that, and then so I just went for the cast that I thought would be perfect, and everybody who I asked said yes. So it was a brief conversation, but they're so busy they have so many projects, and they really didn't even have the time. There was talk about Matt playing this role or that role, but it was like, oh, can you shoot everything in one day? I'm like, no, So at a certain point, we just let go of the idea, and they were really helpful to me. I've loved having their input and their objectivity, So I'm glad. I'm in a way not glad they weren't in it, but I mean, I'm glad to have them as producers. They had my back. They were looking at everything, looking at everything we were filming, and giving me feedback or not, because it was okay. And I felt like that was. I wanted to make this film with people who had my back, that would really support me, and not, there's a lot in Hollywood, things can, go a little sideways, the studio's not happy, and all of a sudden they're like, why did you do that? Well, it's in the script, did you read it, kind of thing. But with Ben and Matt, it was like we were a team, and it always felt like, I could always go to them with any question, and especially in post-production, they had phenomenal notes from them and made them film so much better than it would have been without them. So having them as producers was like a dream come true, really. I mean, to make my first film with them as producers, it was a perfect situation.
And then how was it working with both J-Lo and Ben?
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
That kept it cool, professional.
Oh yeah, no, they're totally professional, and yeah. I mean, they're both. First of all, everybody wants the movie to be good, and they're professionals, and their personal life is their personal life. I wish them both well. I love them both. But yeah, they were both awesome.
That's amazing.
Jennifer was so committed, and she was so in it the whole time, and it fed into everybody else's performance. She was so great with the kids, like the 4 siblings are little kids. 3 of them are 9 years old, or were when we filmed, and Jharrel's a young guy, and this guy Noah, who played the oldest brother, she instantly became their mom. They on set every morning was hugging, and like she would just sit with her arms around him, and she and Jharrel bonded, and so I think it comes out in the film. They feel like a family.
Unstoppable drops in select theaters on December 6th. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come back next week for more inside scoops on all things entertainment.